Hi. Well, we are live. Hello, everybody. This is Lucy, Rosa-Stagi, and my guest today is Lady Jayne, and you are in for a treat. Now, before we start, if you're joining us live, all right, would you please hashtag live or hashtag replay if it's the replay, and tell us where you're coming from, because we love to know where people are from. For example, I am coming in live from Mexico. Lady Jayne, where are you coming in live from?
I'm USA, Minnesota.
Minnesota. Okay, folks, you are joining us and you want to comment or you want to react, then you will have to give access to StreamYard. Let them access your name and your picture so that you can join us. Thank you so very much. We're very happy to have you here. So, usually what I like to do is, before we get started, I'd like to tell you a little bit about how Lady Jayne and I met. So before we get started, we actually met online. We met at the World Summit 2020. Now in breakout room number 14, I remember it well. Now, the World Summit was created by Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi and Russell Brunson. And it was created for members who started with the KBB program that they created. And it became a movement. I mean, it grew so fast in 2 years to 25,000 people in 50 countries. So since they had the summit in October of 2020, Tony and Dean have had lots of online challenges. And so tickets were awarded and gifted, and that's what they do. So in October 2020, Lady Jayne, you and I met. I'd like to know, how did you hear about the World Summit 2020?
Well, once the COVID thing started, I started doing positive things for myself. And so I started doing challenges, and challenges led me into other challenges. And so from one challenge to another, eventually, I think Dean Grassi and Tony Robbins were doing one, and I ended up doing a webinar that they did. And on the webinar, they offered a deal where if you bought their program to set up your own programs online, that you could get a ticket. And I felt that added the value that I needed to go ahead and be able to go on to that. Because I really wanted to go to anything that Tony Robbins has done. I've been involved with since the early 70s. In fact, I actually talked to him at one point about selling for him when he first came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's great. Yeah. Now, I remember we were there for 3 days, and I remember, Lady Jayne, you were very active for those 3 days. You were chatting away. And then I was very intrigued by your name, for one thing. And then the other thing that I noticed is that you had a lot of knowledge about marketing. So let's start with your name, Lady Jayne. I mean,
Well, that is a little bit of an interesting story. I'm a singer-songwriter. I have been since I was a child, when I was given a guitar when I was 13, and I've been on stage since I was 4. So literally, I don't know, 60 some years I've been on stage. And the question was,
Lady Jayne, not everybody.
Lady Jayne part. Okay, so I also, along with that, have been basically a poster child for domestic violence. And so from the earliest days in my life, there was a lot of spankings and violence in our house to control the kids. And so it evolved into abuse in school. And so this was kind of a common thread throughout my life. So when I was going to get a divorce, I kept looking for my new name. I had been married twice. I didn't want to change my name again. I'm getting ready to go on stage, and I'm going, Lord, what's my name? What's my name? And he said, you're my Lady Jayne. I heard it in my spirit. Wow. So then my sister looked up family names in our generations, and Belafontaine was a name. And so I thought, Lady Jayne Belafontaine might be too much. So I went with Lady Jayne Fontaine. It means beautiful fountain.
So, that is wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah, I feel a lot of information. So I thought
I love the story. It's a great story because, who's called Lady Jayne? I mean, it's wonderful. And I love the way you spell Jayne too. It's no ordinary Jane.
Well, I was given that. I was Jayne Claire to start out with, and so that's how my mom spelled it. So
okay, great. Now I noticed. Let me go back to the chatting because you were you were very intentional in. It looked like building relationships in those 3 days. Is this one of your strategies for
well,
online?
absolutely. I've been a grassroots marketer since I was 19, actually, probably since I was selling anything when I was 12 or 13. My dad was a flea marketer, and he fed our family with the extra income that he did that from. So I've always been somebody that's been around people who talked, but I wasn't very social until I was thrown into a place where I had to survive. And then I started selling in-home party plans so that I could learn how to speak in front of groups. So when I'm in a group now, building relationships internationally is really my heartbeat, because that way I can help spread the things that I know and have learned through the experiences that I've gone through with other people, and that will branch it out and get it to more people.
Right. So who would you, if I had to ask you, who are your clients? Do you have a target audience? Today they call them avatars.
Well, my target market is really people, specifically leaders of leaders.
Okay.
It really doesn't matter what age bracket, but pretty much a leader is anybody from literally their mid-20s into somewhere. My target is pretty much the mid-25 to 28, somewhere in there, into their early 50s. And it's a little broader because I have an extensive background in a lot of subjects.
Oh, great. So I noticed that in your bio, you tend to position them for media opportunities, and you get them into new markets, and you get them free exposure through free press. Where'd you learn all that?
Well, as a singer, I had to market myself. So, from the earliest days, I've pretty much been a grassroots fire starter, meaning I knew how to get people to talk about me. And that was the thing. What was unique about me? What was unique about my story? The big deal right now is story, 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 story. Well, I've been living that. And that was always my secret power, I guess it would be that I can go ahead and take anybody literally in a half hour, and I can find out where you are, where you should be positioned through some questioning, and then I can show you how to get to that target market. I'm also a very spiritual woman, and therefore I have intuition that works. I actually am a woman of God, and as a result, I really lean on the wisdom that I've been given over my life. And so I help people figure out where they're going and then how to get there and tell their story to a way that you can get picked up by the newspapers, award-winning things. It doesn't really matter how you get recognized. It just means you just need to get recognized.
You just need to get out there. That's right. So it's kind of, I think marketing on a shoestring budget, you kind of thing. So the mass exposure. So actually, it's your background. All those people that you got to know when you were an entertainer, right? I mean,
well, I'll give you an example. The guy who I ran with, I ran for lieutenant governor of the state of Minnesota in 2010.
wow.
And it was just a very short time that he had lost the person that was going to run with him. I ran into him at the Capitol because I was photographing somebody else, and I ended up being the pick. And so I was asked to run. I thought, why not? I have answers. So, because I've gotten out of a lot of situations. So I went ahead and I did that. Well, one night we were out and about and we were campaigning, and there was a nightclub that I knew, and we went in and I was introducing him to people, and then I knew the band, and I got up on stage and sat in with the band, sang a song, and introduced that we were running in this campaign. And he said he had never seen anybody do anything like that before in his whole life. And you don't, because I can go anywhere, and if my voice is in good shape, or even if it's not, like I went to Mexico not too long ago, maybe a year ago, they had a karaoke night, and I was kind of a karaoke queen in the day. And I got up and I sang "I'll Always Love You," and all of a sudden I had instant friends, and I knew everybody in the place. So they all knew me. I didn't exactly know all of them, but they knew me. So from there, I'm able to go ahead and build a relationship or a contact, find what I'm looking for.
Wow.
So using natural talents, for me, it's always about using your natural talents, your natural abilities, because literally I gave up my music career to go become a businesswoman because I was being exploited in the music industries in the early 70s. I'm what's known as a forerunner. And so I was being exploited in music. And so I basically swore that I was not going to go back into music until I had learned how to read contracts.
Okay, so that is so interesting. You know, it just seems to me that you're a woman of many talents. I remember having a conversation with you, and you called yourself Jack of all trades. But you know what comes to my mind is master of none, and I know that that's not true about you.
So, no, that isn't true, because I've mastered many, and right. The reality is I'm equally as good as a writer as I am a singer, as I am a photographer, and each one of the talents that God's given me, I have worked at and used in business, as well as in reaching people, because I'm the consummate. I'm what you're called the communicator's communicator, because I can find where I need to use my whatever talent and go in and use it to expose somebody. Like my daughter's company, I've been working for the last. She's one of my contracts, and I've been working for her for 20 years on and off. Well, we started out using my photography. Then they brought me on the inside of the company, and I became the spokesperson. So I would stand up in a crowd and I would ask, the funniest thing was they would ask me, they would say no questions were to be asked at a major function. And we were there to look for business. And so I went ahead and stood up in the crowd and I said, "We're a women-owned DBE. Hi, I'm Lady Jayne from such and such a company, and and we're a woman-owned DBE. And I'm just wondering, how do we go about finding contacts in here for companies that are looking for our work?"
So you got
and then I just stood in the back, and they all came to me, and it became a funny thing, because anytime I was at one of these big events, I came up with another idea creatively. And they were always coming to me, and people started watching for me to come in to see what I was going to do.
Right. Well, I know that you've been on stage practically since the age of 10. Am I right? I mean, you have had 4. So you've had a long career in that entertainment business. 4. How did that start at 4?
They put me, I was the family mascot. And so I got tap and dance and singing, and I was leading literally in my kindergarten class. I had a baton and I was twirling the baton, and I was I was with the master of ceremony. I was the person that was with the master of ceremony who led the parade. And then I went into singing and pantomiming, and then they found out that I actually had a voice, and they gave me solos, and I won awards and that kind of thing.
Wow. So you had a long, it sounds like you had a long time of being a song. Were you a songwriter also?
When I got my guitar, I was given as a gift when I was 13, and I didn't want a guitar. I wanted to play the piano. Right. But I was given a guitar, and I started learning. I think it was 6 chords. And my life at that time, it was 13. I was being bullied at school. I was going through a lot of abuse at home because I was oldest of 7 kids, and I was told that I always had to kind of take care of everybody and everything. So I was trained in that, because there were 7 kids in 10 years, and I was the oldest. So I was responsible for everybody. So when everything would go wrong, I'd be the one that would be punished for it. Right. So I would go in my basement and I would write songs about how I wanted the world to be better. And I would write songs about the Vietnam War. And then I would take them out and I'd sit at parks and sing. And then eventually the bullying got to be so much that I couldn't handle it. And I started grabbing songs that were inspirational songs, and I started singing as a copy singer. And then I went all over around the country, sang in 23 states in Canada from the time I was like 16 to 24, 25, and then I had a bad experience out on the road, and then I got off the road.
So I know that you mentioned that you had been exploited, and that's kind of why you got out of that entertainment industry, right? Is that why?
Well, it was a little worse than that. I was raped at gunpoint by 2 men when I was 19. Wow. And so as a result, I had a lot of fear. You know, I'd already had these episodes that were happening in life. And so as a result, now I had an external that was so bad that I ran into a marriage, and that pretty much took me off the road because I was looking for that safe place.
Right.
And so between the finding out that I was being exploited and the episode out in the world, I learned that it wasn't a safe place. So my whole existence, literally my whole life, has been overcoming fear.
Right.
Overcoming fear and abuse.
Oh my God. So I just cannot imagine, because it just sounds like there's been a lifetime of abuse, a lifetime of violence, domestic violence. I mean,
yep.
I mean, do you feel that fear within you even today? I mean, every day, or
no, not every day. No, but the fact is that I've overcome it with my faith, and I have lots of good days, and I really learned through my photography to find peace and where to go to find peace. I chase bald eagles, and I'm a avid bald eagle photographer, and I travel around photographing birds, and that leads me into photographing this amazing world that we live in that many people don't see anymore. But what it's done is my mom was a very fearful person, and so I really early had to learn that whatever she was afraid of, I was afraid of, and that thread was in me. I had to face it if I was going to have any kind of life. So when those bad things happened to me, I had to choose right at that time, that very literally at that moment, I was not going to let that affect me all my life, or I would not be able to enjoy my life. So literally, like a month ago, I was telling you the other day about going to Jamaica. I had been given an opportunity to go to Jamaica for free, and my daughter was going to take me on this trip. I had always dreamed about going, but suddenly we're in COVID, and suddenly all these words are talking at me, telling me what if we get stuck here at the border? What if somebody gets sick? What if I die? I had a guy that was my snow plowing guy that literally got it 4 weeks before and died. And we had set up the plan for, snow plowing all winter, and now he was gone. And now I'm being asked if I want to go to Jamaica. So there's a lot of real things that are there that would say, don't go, don't go. But you know what? I wrestled with it, and then I just had to get into my faith and realize, you know what? My days are numbered by what God determines, not what man determines. And there's a lot of stuff yet that I have to say. So I knew he wasn't going to let me be taken out. So I said, okay, we're going. And truthfully, it was the best vacation I've ever had in my life. I went to a beautiful resort. It was a 5-star resort, a timeshare my daughter had. I got the best room. And not only, and this best room was on the 3rd floor. It was overlooking the ocean. And for 7 days, I lived in and out of that room. But for 7 days, I slept with my doors wide open.
Wow, that's freedom.
I didn't worry about the bugs. I didn't worry about somebody coming in and hurting me. I lived in total freedom, and it has absolutely changed me right now because of all the junk that was going on and people spewing in the last year. I am more confident now that I'm okay and that I'm protected than I've ever been before.
So do you have okay, well, so you have such a a variety of talent. I mean, you know, you're a senior, you're a sales strategist, you're a photographer, you're also a mentor and a coach, aren't you? You coach one-on-one, don't you?
Absolutely. That's really a lot of what I've done in the last, I don't know, 30 years.
Mm-hmm. So mostly you're coaching one-on-one. Does the idea of fear come up a lot for your clients?
Fear does. Taking a new market always creates some fear. Learning who you really are and what you want to do is something that I excel at. Crisis is a area that if you're an executive or you're a business owner or you want to be a business owner and you're walking through crisis, let's say you have a business and then all of a sudden you got divorced or you got cancer or you've got some external force that comes in and it rocks your world, and all of a sudden that's tapping into childhood issues, and you're suddenly going, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Well, if you have somebody who knows how to chart those waters, you can actually come out where your company's doing better, your business is doing better, but best of all, you're doing better. You can make your choices. And the difference is too, is like when you're talking with somebody that actually has been there, you can be free to talk. And a lot of corporate people, not corporate, but people that are in their own businesses, they don't have anybody to talk to because as a leader, they're looked at as weak if they have a problem.
Right.
I just lay all my stuff out there. The one thing that I learned really early in my life was, you know, if I tell my story, nobody else can go ahead and come in and tell it for me. So if they go, so no reporters can come and make me feel shame because I was raped or whatever. You know, I've helped a young woman that was caught in the human trafficking industry as a prostitute. I helped her get free for 18 months. I mentored her. Helped her get her head right. And she ended up going out to help other girls that are caught and trapped in human trafficking. She now is an international speaker, author, and a woman that helps get girls out of human trafficking. I helped another man that went ahead and he was involved in, he was in a cave in Afghanistan. He was a young kid that I knew, and he had a alcoholic family and things that were going on when he was young, and he was military, and he had this idea of helping people go ahead and get inner city churches, youth workers for inner city churches. So we created a fish-a-thon in Minnesota. We have 10,000 lakes. And so we got commerce and community together, and he created this huge thing called the fishing-a-thon. And so I've mentored him, been like a big sister to him for a lot of years, and helped him. And whenever he gets a challenge or a family or whatever, we talk about it and we fix it. And then get him back on the path. And then I've done this with just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
Well, you know, it's interesting because you talked about being a consultant for your daughter's business. Now, all of this trauma in your life must have affected your daughter in some way, because talk about fear. I remember my mother was a fearful person too. And specifically, we lived in the country and there were horses roaming around. My mother was specifically afraid of horses. You know, it wasn't until my mother voiced that I looked at a horse differently. You know, it was like, oh my God, you know, that horse can hurt me, you know, and I took on that fear. So how did your daughters, you know, manage all those years with you going through all the trauma that you went through?
You know, she has been one of the greatest gifts that God could have ever gave me. When I had my daughter, I vowed that she would never experience the things that I did. And so as a result, I worked diligently as a mother to protect her and keep her from violence and abuse. And I couldn't. There were lots of things that happened in our house that I couldn't keep my kids, because I had a daughter and a son, and he was born 4 years later. So he had a different experience than my daughter did. And my daughter turned out to be very equipped and very strong. It's kind of funny because I look at my kids and what I was doing at the time, whether it was sales, marketing, or music, they picked up in that venue. And my daughter, I was a businesswoman. I was working, selling real estate from early morning, dropping my kids off individually, because I would never let anybody take my kids to school. I was a active mother. I would pick them up from daycare, all that stuff. And then I would leave and I'd go do the business, or I'd do the business at home when I was doing real estate at one point. And so she learned even from the phone how to handle the phone. So when she grew up and she moved on, she not only didn't want what I had with the marriage of all this inconsistency, because I didn't want to be there from early, but I stayed because that was what we were taught in my generation.
Right.
We stayed no matter what. And it was from the faith, from the religious point, it was a trap for me.
Right.
And when I finally got free of all of that, I started to be a much healthier person. And I'm very much an advocate for marriage, for people to have a good, healthy marriage, but I'm not for bad marriages. I'm not for abusive marriages or alcoholic marriages. People need to get healed or help. And my daughter, she just stood up to things that I had basically role modeled, but it was later in her life.
Yeah.
And then when she started her company, she ended up marrying somebody older than her, and between him helping her with the stuff I was going through, to detach, and I was so thankful for him, that he could help her grow, and he was a great mentor and a husband for her eventually. She's just become an extremely equipped young woman, a little more workaholic than I would like to see, and I'm working on that with her. But because she's a whole lot like me. But the blessing is that even though she's gone through the rough stuff, I went before, and I've counseled and mentored and loved and helped her grow in the areas that preparing her for whatever happens in life.
Right.
And her brother didn't do so much. He took more of the alcohol and a little bit more of, sad. His dad walked out on us when he was 5. So he had a lot of emotional hurts that we've had to work to try to get healed. So too extreme.
Right. It happens in the family.
Keep me busy.
Yeah. So as far as you're concerned, being the mom, you feel that obviously you did a wonderful job. You kept that positivity with you, and that helped you to overcome all of that. It's just our generation, I think we were lucky because my mother's generation didn't have. I can't say that because my aunt was different, but they didn't have the wherewithal to have the mindset to listen to a Tony Robbins, or to be get into personal development, or
but they didn't have personal development. I was in the generation that it came out. I was part of birthing it, even, was speaking and singing and being a audible. I mean, I was one of the first women that got in a van and went around the country singing in nightclubs, by herself, and so breaking doors open. I was one of the first women that, had got the government to help them pay for a commission job. They always slotted women into a place where you were a clerk or a secretary. Not even at that, you were somebody that worked at a cash register instead of doing something that could feed your family. You were slotted in a job that would only pay you $5. Right. And how are you going to take care of your kids? I had to learn how to sell. I had to learn how to overcome my fears so that I could do what I needed to do. And I didn't have a college education. I didn't have anywhere to go to get those things. But I've learned it's not in college that you learn how to sell and market. It's by walking up to the door and going, oh, I hope they're not home. I hope they're not home. I hope they're not home. And then they open the door and you go, hi, I'm Jayne from such and such real estate company. And I see you got it for sale by owner, in your yard. Can I talk to you about selling your house? I'm like, but I did it and I won, and I listed that house, and then I helped them get into their new house. I mean, you don't know what it takes to overcome fear until you do it.
Exactly. Absolutely. You just got to face it. You got to face it.
Absolutely. That's how you become fearless,
Yeah.
And people, when I asked people what they thought of me, because I was looking like, what are the common threads? What should I be teaching people? What do they want to hear? And they all said I was fearless. And I'm like, I'm just a baby. I'm just crying all the time in the background. What's going to happen to me? But here's the deal, it's like, okay, go for it.
Yeah. That's great. So what are you going to go for now? I mean, I know that COVID, came upon us. None of us could control that. I mean, how did that affect your whole business or your whole business sense about yourself? Because you are a businesswoman. Does wanting to sing again? I mean, you must have so much within you to get out of you, and you can do it with song. Well, I mean, that is such a talent, or poetry, which is, it's just, I always admire people who have that within them, because I just don't have it,
I hear you. One of the things I want to do is I want to help creatives be able to sing their song, and in doing that, I think it's not just and when I say creatives sing their song, I want to put together an eclectic group of people, some that are painters, some that are songwriters, some that are musicians and photographers, and I want to put them in a group, and I want to create a platform that actually becomes a variety stage, like an old variety show, that as they write their songs and as they do their painting, they can bring it out, and they got a safe place that people will be able to experience their art. We can encourage them to go live. We can give them ideas. I've got so many because I studied so hard this last year. I have so many avenues that I know on how to break somebody into the internet market, but I'm not believing in only the internet market, because there's too much censorship suddenly out of nowhere that I don't want to go ahead and have people that's their only way. I want to teach them both brick and mortar as well as how to use the internet and not be dependent on the internet, because if you're dependent on either one, as we've seen, you can go ahead and have all your livelihood taken. And
but how do you leverage yourself? I mean, there's just so many hours in the day. So, I mean, you could create master classes, and show
I'm definitely, it's probably going to be a lot of one-on-one, not one-on-ones, but I think that the interview process for me is really good. So because it gets a lot of the information, it stirs what I know. So either being interviewed, I think I'm probably going to go on the interview circuit for a while. And then eventually I would like to probably have my own podcast and reach more people that way. But I'm still going to do the one-on-ones. It's not going to be very many. In fact, I'm not taking any until the 1st of February. Any new clients or customers or whatever you want to call it. I just say new friends, but people, rather than, I'm doing some, the word is new pivoting.
New pivoting. I was just
pivoting right now, everybody.
You're in your pivoting stage.
I'm in my pivoting stage, and I'm really looking at what I want to do to get my photography out and my singing. So I've got writings. I always had this vision from the time I was little that I was going to be a singer, songwriter, writer, photographer, and speaking is in there too. So I want to create something that I have my photographs in the background of me. I'm speaking my own words and then singing my own words. So I might start out singing a song and then talk and then close with the song, because that's really what I've done all my life. But I didn't have a platform like we have with the internet now.
Right.
And then once I do that, I can take that product, and then that now becomes a product that I can put in a store somewhere, and then I can give tips on how it happens or how you can overcome your fear or whatever it is that needs to be said out of that module or that creation.
Right. There's so much. I mean, I'm thinking infinite possibilities here.
Well, from there, then I can sell the photo that was used in it and stuff like that, or the song or the track. That's always been my vision. It's just so big, and I'm the product. So I don't know. I haven't known how to do it. So I've had to, and never had any money. Never had a lot of great money. I mean, I had money, but I didn't have great money. And and it takes a lot. It takes a lot in the day. It took a lot more money to do production, to do a video than it does today. Now I can do a cell phone, and we can do any one of these platforms that are out here.
Yeah.
So ultimately now I'm in that place where I have to settle in on a couple topics that I want to run with, and then just do it. And that's kind of where you and I came in. I had heard somebody talking. One of the speakers said something that day, and they said, they were talking about something, and it was kind of just this one moment where it was just do it. And so I tested myself, and I went and I was going to book myself for 30 talks in 30 days. I was taking that challenge, Yeah. And I actually got 20 some appointments, but COVID things happened, and we all had to put them all on burners. So things happened, but I know I can still do it. I know it's there, I know it's all out there for me. I know that, God's going to open the doors that I need to have opened. And the part that I want to keep very sacred is my time with myself and my time with nature, and not be so overwhelmed by having anybody push me to do anything anymore. I have paid my dues, and whatever I do from this point forward is to help those that are coming behind.
Oh, wonderful. That's admirable. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying that. So I do have, we do have quite a few people listening. I don't know if anybody has a question for you. And if they do, we have Ben from Michigan. I know that Donna is from Northern California. And Libby, I don't know if Libby is in Mexico. I know Libby Adams. She, like you, she. I don't know if you're familiar with Take the Stages with Suzanne Evans, and
I haven't done her one, but Pete Vargas has something like that. But
exactly. Well, anyway, so how would people be able to? Well, I do have your contact, your email down below. That is the ticker that's going through. Is that the best way for people to
now that is, because like in this whole repurposing, as a creative, I have lots of ideas too. I have lots and lots of domains, and I'm just right now, I'm just going to stay with the one-on-one and doing VIPs and things like that, as far as, making a monetary thing for myself, continuing the monetary platform for myself. But rather than just branch out right now, it's not the right timing for me. And so I've decided that it's not, and I'm going to take a little bit of time. I'm going to stay doing my one-on-ones. And if a new one comes along or two, I will take those on, but I'm not going to load myself up. And I'm going to wait and decide probably after February.
Okay, so you have a time slot. You know what you want. It'll just come to you. I mean, faith, the universe is there. You just have to be open. And,
well, you do, and if you're a person like I am, which is a strong person of faith, really strong person of faith, it really doesn't matter what I want to do. I get derailed if I'm not supposed to be doing it.
Right.
So if God's not in it, if where I'm going, I don't feel the presence of God in it, it's not where I'm supposed to be. So that's why I say I'm pivoting right now, because when we were talking, I was ready to go gung ho and do some projects that I thought were going to be good for me. But then as I wrestled, instead of jumping, because a lot of us jump, and then we go ahead and we find out, I don't want to be here. I've gone ahead and set myself up to be a book distributor, and I don't really like books. I mean, I like to read, but I don't really want to haul things everywhere. I mean, literally, my dad was doing, my dad was doing flea marketing, right? So I found a resource to buy a bunch of stuff for pennies on the dollar. And I went out and loaded up my house buying merchandise because I was going to resell it. But what I didn't do was go out and try to resell it and see how I felt standing out at flea markets all day long. Suddenly I had sheds full of stuff. Now I had to get rid of it, and I had bought it all cheap so I could get rid of it cheap. But what a nightmare I had put myself into. So I don't do that anymore. I try not to do that anymore.
That happens so much for people. You know, we have these social idealism that we think, you know, and we really have to zone in on our values, our personal highest values, you know, and go with that, because it happened to me 2.5 years ago. I was going down the path happening, and then when it got time to launch, I panicked and I thought, oh my God, this is not what I want to do. You know?
Exactly. And that's happened to me on a lot of things because of my creative stuff, because I was blessed with lots of talents. And it's all, to me, it felt like a curse because I had all these talents and I couldn't figure out which one I wanted to do. And everybody always told me I had to do one. But the thing was, when I only do one, the other ones die. And there's a death going on inside of me that it's really not palatable. It really hurts. It feels like when I buried singing, I feel like I died.
Oh, wow.
So I wrote a song and I actually sang it out and did it. So long story short is, like, I want to bring forth my creative side. And if I go off on that straight business side again, I'll lose it. And I'm too old. I'm 66, going to be 67. I don't have years and years and years to look forward to doing my thing. I need to do it now if I'm going to do it.
Right. You know? Yeah. I had a thought where I'm thinking about age, and that's a limiting belief, because we were just reading with my mastermind group a book called Secret of Ages, and you know, you put that in your head and you think, you know, if people have lived till they were 150, you know, I mean,
they have.
It's unbelievable what we do. Our mind is so powerful.
Well, it made me decide that there's times in life I really took care of myself, and there's times in life when I didn't really take good care of myself. And the last 3 years, I went through a lot of pain. There were lots of things that were happening in our family, that my daughter's business burned to the ground in one day, and all kinds of things. It's been rebuilt, but that's good. But we had to go through the process. There's lots of things that have happened that really took me out, and I still had to keep going. And that takes a toll on a person. And so now I'm at that place where my focus is on my health. My focus is on exercising, getting moving again, taking care of myself. You can't go get your hair done anymore, but I do the best I can, because we're in lockdown here. We aren't able to go to beauticians or get your nails done or any of these things. And so you had to get used to being okay with being you. And that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. A lot of us needed to get used to being okay with ourselves, but now it's like, pick it up and start being happy, I love to go outside and spend time in nature, and nothing that I will do will take that time away from me, because there's seasons of time that I go watch the babies be born and I get to photograph them. And I think that that's the most important thing. If I can leave an inspirational thing with your people, is get outside.
Yes.
Take your phone, or if you have the opportunity to have a nice camera with a good zoom on it, go outside and photograph the world around you. You will never be the same.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that message. Thank you for your time today. I've so enjoyed having you on this. I was looking so forward to it. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, I
And
really enjoy you. You're an awesome woman, and
thank you.
you're a blessing. And I learn so much whenever I'm with you. And I want to do what you've done by moving to another country. Oh my God, that's so brave. You should be fearless, Lord.
Yeah, no, my mind is a center of divine operation. That's what I keep
All
remembering.
right, that's
So
brave.
that's great. So
Brave.
yeah,
I could sing a Be a Brave song, you know?
absolutely. So thank you, thank you. And I just want to say to my audience that if you have a story, and what a story we just heard, and you want to be interviewed, message me. We'll make it happen. And for now, we will leave it, and we'll say goodbye to Lady Jayne and goodbye to everybody in the audience. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.